The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2 is directed by Francis Lawrence and stars Jennifer Lawrence, Liam Hemsworth, Josh Hutcherson, Donald Sutherland, and everyone that you've come to love over the last few films. Now, believe it or not, I've actually really enjoyed the Hunger Games series. I think they've got more dramatic and more serious as the series progresses, and my personal favourite is Catching Fire, which perfectly blended the action-packed feel of the first one with the serious, more darker tones of the later films. And to be honest, even though I do still like the Mockingjay Part 1, I did think it was rather slow and just a bunch of exposition ready for this new one. I was really excited for this film and I didn't know what to expect, as I am a person who doesn't read the book before going into a book adaptation of a film. I had that with the Harry Potter films, and I absolutely loved that series. I thought they got better as the films went on. And I prefer to not read the books before going into the films, because it gives you an extra element of surprise, and you don't know what to expect, and it just makes it more enjoyable for you as a audience member. And I have to admit, I was ever better for it, because The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2 is on par with Catching Fire as one of my favourites in the series. I mean, it does have quite a few problems, but it is just such a good end to this kind of series, and for what it is just really well done. Now, I do think that the Hunger Games series is one of the better young adult book series adapted to films. I mean, Divergent and the Maze Runner films can go fuck themselves. But I think the two strongest series are the Harry Potter films and the Hunger Games, because they just blend the characters and the emotion and the action so well into each other. And this is probably the best example. I mean, even though it is quite a slow-going film and the runtime is quite long, these characters and the emotions and the raw darkness of the film is what pushes it to make it better than it should have been. The acting in this film is great. Yet again, the acting in these films have been great since the very start. I think Josh Hutcherson really comes into his own in this film. He's the best he's been in any of the films, in my opinion. Jennifer Lawrence is good as usual. So is Liam Hemsworth, believe it or not. And Donald Sutherland as well, as President Snow. He does a very good job of what he has as well. And it's just kind of relieving, yet also quite emotional to see where these characters end up going. And, I mean, I didn't think I would end up crying, but I came this close to crying at a couple of scenes in this film. I've heard a lot of people complain that this film is very long and very boring, which I can understand why. There are a lot of slow dialogue scenes that move the plot along and move the character development along. And as well as they are interesting, some of them do feel quite tedious, and some of them could have been cut out. I mean, there's a few scenes towards the end and maybe in the middle before shit hits the fan that could have been cut out, but apart from that, most of it works. Now, I've got to admit, for a 12 rated film, the action scenes in this film are pretty brutal. I mean, people explode, just shit. When shit hits the fan, it hits the fan, and it is done really well. There are a few times when you can't really tell what is going on, but that's only far and few. Like, it only happens once or twice throughout the entire film. Most of the time you know what's going on, and it is really, really hard to watch at times. I suppose actually that is a reason why the slower scenes are actually really good. They give a suspenseful build-up to when shit does hit the fan and when the action really does take place. Now, like I said, this film isn't flawless. It is a bit slow going. It is a bit bogged down in emotion and drama at some points. I mean, there are times when it's handled beautifully and really well, but most of the time it does come across as a bit forceful. I mean, the times it is handled well are tear-jerking times, and you are this close to crying if you've connected to the characters, that is. But it does bog it down ever so slightly. And another thing that I didn't quite like about this film is that halfway through it turns into a suspenseful horror action thing in these sewers. I mean, there were like jump scares every 5 minutes, and I didn't sign up for that. I signed up for a young adult film that had tons of action and tons of drama. I did not sign up for fucking jump scares. Also, one thing that I suppose isn't good, which I've never really done in a film before, is as they are progressing through the capital, I was starting to figure out in my head who would die next. And that's not good, because even though I want all of these characters to survive, except maybe the side ones who have just been like introduced and you know they're gonna go, most of the time I was just like, he's gonna go. No, oh wait, no, she's gone. Okay, fair enough. But yeah, like I said, there are a couple of characters who feel as if they are in the film just so they can be killed. You don't know who they are, they're just introduced there and then just so they can be like killed. Now, going back to what I was saying at the start of the video, whereby I don't read the books before going to see the films, I think that paid off tremendously, as the twists and turns that happened in the film completely took me by surprise. I had no idea what was going to happen. However, I did predict that a couple of things would happen as the film played out, but there were just some things that took me by surprise. And this isn't really a spoiler, but when some certain characters get killed, it really does hit you where your heart is. I had a great maybe towards the very end of the film. But still, I enjoyed it, and I'm going to give it a low 8 out of 10. I mean, fans of the series will still enjoy this and will find a lot to like about it. Now, seeing that I went with a friend that has read the books, she was telling me about certain things that they'd cut out and certain things that had been left in the film that were kind of shortened from the book. And when she was explaining these things, it made a lot more sense. It made things that happen in the film make total sense, and I think they should have actually stuck with the things that my friend was actually talking about. Because there are a couple of things that happen in this film where people just pop up and you have no idea who they are, or things happen and nothing is explained. But you kind of get that with any book adaptation. But yeah, it's just like these tiny little moments, but you know, it doesn't affect the whole film. Anyway guys, that was my review for The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2. I will have my review for Star Wars The Force Awakens out on Friday, as well as some very overdue trailer reviews for Independence Day Resurgence, X-Men Apocalypse and Star Trek Beyond that should hopefully be out tomorrow. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!